All right, today we're cracking open a true classic, John C. Maxwell's The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Now look, we can't possibly cover all 21, but we're going to pull out 3 of the most powerful laws, the ones that can totally reframe how you think about leadership, and not just at work, but in pretty much every part of your life.
So Maxwell starts with this really bold statement. But just think about it for a second. Any team, any project, any company you've ever been a part of, its success or its failure, right? It almost always comes back to the quality of the leadership. This idea is the foundation for everything else we're about to get into. And that, of course, brings us to the big question, doesn't it? This whole idea that some people are just born leaders and the rest of us aren't. Well, Maxwell basically says that's a myth. He argues that leadership is a skill, a set of principles that anyone, and I mean anyone, can learn and apply. So let's jump into the first one. Our first stop is what Maxwell calls the law of the lid. This one is huge because it kind of sets the absolute upper limit on what we can achieve.
Think of it like this. You could be the most talented, driven, hardworking person in the world, but if your leadership skill is, say, a 4 out of 10, Maxwell argues your overall effectiveness will never get past a 3. Your leadership ability literally creates a ceiling, a lid on your potential. Let's see how this actually plays out in the real world.
And you want to see this lid in action? Well, there's no better example than the story behind those famous golden arches. It all starts with 2 brothers, Dick and Maurice McDonald, who were absolutely brilliant at what they did.
I mean, these guys were geniuses when it came to running a restaurant. They perfected this speedy service system and created a single restaurant that was just wildly profitable. They were organized, they were efficient, great at operations, but that's where their lid was. They just lacked the leadership and the vision to scale their amazing idea. They only managed to sell about 15 franchises, and get this, only 10 of those ever actually opened.
And then along comes this guy, a milkshake machine salesman named Ray Kroc. When he visited their restaurant, he saw something the brothers couldn't. He wasn't a better cook, probably wasn't even a better day-to-day manager, but he had something they didn't, a much, much higher leadership lid.
And yep, this number right here says it all. Under Ray Kroc's leadership, McDonald's just exploded. He built teams, he cast a global vision, and he scaled that system into a worldwide empire. It was the exact same concept, folks, but a completely different lid. That is the power of leadership.
Okay, so if the law of the lid is our ceiling, the next logical question is, how do we raise it, right? Well, that brings us straight to our second key principle, the law of process.
This one is so crucial. Leadership isn't an event. It's not a weekend course you take or a promotion you suddenly get. It's a journey. It's about intentional daily growth. You know, it's just like saving money. Those small, consistent investments you make in yourself every single day, they start to compound over time, and down the line, they produce these incredible results.
So Maxwell actually breaks this whole journey down into 4 phases. See if you can spot where you might be right now. Most of us start at phase 1, where we don't even realize leadership is a skill we need to work on. The big shift happens in phase 2, when you become aware of what you don't know. Then phase 3 is where all that daily work starts to pay off, and you see real results. And phase 4, that's mastery. That's when leadership becomes almost intuitive, because you put in the work day in and day out.
You want a perfect example of this process in action? Look no further than Theodore Roosevelt. This guy was not born a man of action, not at all. In fact, he started out as a very sickly, timid kid with terrible eyesight. But his father gave him a challenge. He said, "You have the mind, but you have not the body. You must make the body." And Roosevelt took that to heart. He started a daily process of building himself up, physically and mentally, that he kept up for the rest of his life. He is living proof that leadership isn't a gift you're born with. It's something you build.
Okay, so we know we have a lid, and we know we can raise that lid through a daily process, but what is the actual thing we're trying to build here? That brings us to the very heart of it all, the law of influence.
So first, let's just clear the air on what leadership isn't. It's not about being a manager or an entrepreneur. It's not about being the smartest person in the room. And here's the big one, it has absolutely nothing to do with your formal position. A title might give you authority, sure, but it doesn't guarantee a single person will actually want to follow you.
So if leadership isn't a title or a position, what is it? Well, Maxwell boils it all down to one single word, influence. If people don't follow you willingly, then you aren't really leading them. It's that simple. And that kind of influence, you can't demand it, you have to earn it. Through your character, by building relationships, and by establishing trust.
Just look at the story of Princess Diana. In 1996, she was stripped of the title Her Royal Highness. Her official position was gone, just like that. But did her leadership diminish? No way! Absolutely not. In fact, her influence, which she had earned by connecting with people and fighting for causes she believed in, it only grew stronger. She proved that true leadership exists completely outside of a formal position.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? How do these 3 laws fit together to help you on your own journey?
Well, it really boils down to this. First, the law of the lid. You've got to recognize that your potential is capped by your ability to lead. Second, the law of process. You have to accept that the only way to raise that lid is through consistent daily effort. And third, the law of influence. Your focus has to be on earning influence, because that is the true currency of leadership. You see, Maxwell's work makes it crystal clear that becoming a great leader is a marathon, not a sprint. It's a lifelong commitment to growth. So the real question this leaves us with isn't if you can become a better leader, but simply when are you going to start the process?